Close your eyes and imagine you're settling into your favorite chair, perhaps with a warm cup of tea beside you. Tonight, we're going to explore something fascinating, yet thought-provoking together. We'll journey into the world of Squid Game, not the violence or the games themselves, but something far more intriguing. The invisible web of technology that watched every move, every breath, every heartbeat of the players. But here's what makes this story truly captivating. The surveillance system we see in Squid Game isn't pure fiction. It's a carefully crafted mirror reflecting technologies that exist in our world today. As we drift through this exploration together, we'll discover how the show's creators drew inspiration from real AI-powered surveillance systems that are quietly reshaping our cities, our security, and our daily lives. This isn't a story meant to frighten you. Instead, think of it as a gentle exploration of human ingenuity, how we created remarkable technologies that can protect and serve us, while also learning to navigate the important questions they raise about privacy, fairness, and the kind of future we want to build together. So settle in comfortably. Let your breathing slow and deepen. Tonight, we'll uncover the fascinating intersection between fiction and reality, between the surveillance system that captivated millions of viewers and the AI technologies that are quietly working all around us every single day. Let's begin by stepping into the world that the show's creators built. Picture the Squid Game facility, not as a place of competition, but as a masterpiece of surveillance engineering. Every corner, every corridor, every sleeping quarter was watched by an intricate network of cameras, sensors, and artificial intelligence. But what made this system so compelling wasn't just its completeness, it was its intelligence. The cameras didn't simply record, they analyzed, they understood, they predicted. When players gathered in suspicious clusters, the AI flagged the behavior for review. Imagine the control room, a dimly lit space where masked operators monitored hundreds of screens simultaneously. But here's the fascinating part. They weren't watching everything themselves. The AI was their partner, their digital assistant, filtering through thousands of hours of footage to highlight only the moments that mattered. A whispered conversation in a corner, a subtle exchange of glances that might indicate alliance or betrayal. The show's creators drew inspiration from something called behavioral analytics, a real technology that's transforming surveillance today. In our world, AI systems in airports can detect when someone is walking in an unusual pattern that might indicate nervousness or suspicious intent. In retail stores, cameras powered by machine learning can identify when someone is behaving in ways that statistically correlate with shoplifting. Not to accuse, but to alert human security personnel who can assess the situation with wisdom and context. Players rarely saw the cameras, yet the system saw everything. This reflects a growing trend in our real world toward what experts call ambient intelligence. It learns your daily patterns, when you wake up, when you leave for work, when you typically go to sleep. It uses this information not to control you, but to serve you better, suggesting when to leave for appointments, you to call a family member you haven't spoken to in a while. The Squid Game surveillance system operated on similar principles, but at a much larger scale. It learned the normal patterns of the facility, how players typically moved, slept, and interacted. This concept, known as anomaly detection, is one of the most powerful applications of AI in surveillance today. As you breathe slowly and let these ideas settle in your mind, Consider how this technology represents humanity's ancient desire to understand and predict behavior. From the earliest human societies, we've sought ways to maintain safety and order within our communities. The AI surveillance in Squid Game is simply the latest evolution of this fundamental human need, enhanced by our remarkable ability to create machines that can process information far beyond human capacity. Now, let's gently transition from fiction to reality. The surveillance system in Squid Game may seem like science fiction, but remarkably similar technologies are already working quietly in cities around the world. Let's take a peaceful journey through some real examples. Understanding how these systems serve and protect communities while raising important questions about balance and responsibility. Picture London on a typical morning. As millions of people begin their daily routines, an invisible network of over 600,000 CCTV cameras watches over the city. But these aren't the passive recording devices of decades past. Many are now powered by artificial intelligence that can recognize faces, track movements, and identify unusual patterns in real time when someone goes missing in London. These AI-powered systems can help search through thousands of hours of footage in minutes rather than weeks. They can trace a person's last known movements, identify which direction they travel, and even recognize them despite changes in clothing or appearance. This technology has helped reunite countless families and has assisted in solving serious crimes that might otherwise have remained mysteries. In Singapore, a city-state that has embraced smart technology, AI surveillance helps manage traffic flow with remarkable efficiency. Cameras equipped with computer vision can detect traffic jams before they fully form, automatically adjusting traffic light timing to ease congestion. They can spot accidents within seconds and dispatch emergency services while simultaneously rerouting traffic to prevent further complications. The system is so sophisticated that it can distinguish between different types of vehicles. Emergency vehicles get priority routing, while the system can detect when someone is driving erratically and alert authorities who can provide assistance. During the COVID-19 pandemic, these same systems helped monitor social distancing in public spaces, not to punish, but to identify areas where additional support or resources might be needed. Dubai has implemented what they call Smart City 2021, an initiative that uses AI surveillance to enhance safety and efficiency across the emirate. Their system can detect everything from unusual crowd formations that might indicate an emergency, to identifying when public facilities need maintenance based on usage patterns. The AI doesn't replace human judgment. Instead, it serves as an incredibly sophisticated early warning system that helps human operators focus their attention where it's needed most. In Amsterdam, the city has taken a particularly thoughtful approach to AI surveillance. They created what they call an algorithm register, a public database that explains exactly which AI systems the city uses, how they work, and what safeguards are in place to protect citizens' rights. This transparency helps build trust between the technology and the community it serves. The city uses AI to monitor noise levels in entertainment districts, automatically adjusting regulations to balance nightlife with residents' need for peaceful sleep. They use computer vision to detect when bike lanes are blocked by cars, helping keep cycling infrastructure safe and accessible. During large events, AI helps predict crowd flows and identify potential safety concerns before they become problems. What's particularly fascinating is how these systems learn and adapt. In Barcelona, AI surveillance has been used to optimize waste collection routes by analyzing patterns of when and where trash bins fill up. The system learned that certain areas generate more waste during tourist seasons, while business districts have different patterns on weekends versus weekdays. This isn't surveillance for control, it's surveillance for service, helping the city operate more efficiently and sustainably. China's approach to smart city surveillance represents perhaps the most comprehensive implementation of these technologies. In Shenzhen, often called the world's first fully smart city, sensors and cameras monitor almost every aspect of urban life. The system can detect air quality changes, predict equipment failures in public infrastructure, and even identify when elderly residents have left their homes in unusual periods, potentially indicating they need assistance. However, China's system also demonstrates the importance of balance and oversight. Their social credit system uses AI surveillance to monitor and score citizens' behavior, affecting access to services and opportunities. This shows us both the remarkable capabilities of AI surveillance and the critical importance of thoughtful governance and ethical guidelines. As you consider these examples, notice how the same technology can serve very different purposes depending on how it's implemented and governed. The AI systems themselves are tools, remarkably sophisticated tools, but tools nonetheless. Their impact on society depends entirely on how we choose to design, deploy, and oversee them. Let's slow down and really understand how these remarkable systems function. Imagine we're taking a gentle, guided tour through the inner workings of an AI surveillance system, not to become experts, but to appreciate the elegant complexity of what humans have created. At its heart, an AI surveillance system is like a very sophisticated pattern recognition engine. Think of it as having three main components working together harmoniously: the eyes, the brain, and the memory. The eyes are the cameras and sensors scattered throughout an environment. But these aren't ordinary cameras. Modern surveillance cameras can see in complete darkness using infrared technology. They can detect heat signatures, allowing them to spot people even in smoke or fog. Some can zoom in with such precision that they can read text from hundreds of meters away, while others have wide-angle lenses that can monitor entire city blocks simultaneously. But cameras are just the beginning. Modern surveillance systems also include audio sensors that can detect unusual sounds, breaking glass, raised voices, or calls for help. They have motion sensors that can detect movement even when cameras can't see clearly. Some systems even include environmental sensors that monitor air quality, temperature, and humidity, creating a complete picture of what's happening in a space. Now, imagine all of this information flowing into the brain, the artificial intelligence that processes and understands what the sensors are detecting. This is where the real magic happens. And it's remarkably similar to how our own brains process visual information. When you look at a friend's face, your brain doesn't consciously analyze the distance between their eyes, the shape of their nose, or the curve of their smile. Instead, it instantly recognizes the overall pattern that represents your friend. AI surveillance systems work similarly, but they can do this for thousands of faces simultaneously, never getting tired, never losing focus. The AI brain uses something called deep learning, a technology inspired by how neurons in our brains connect and communicate. Imagine millions of artificial neurons, each one learning to recognize tiny pieces of a larger pattern. Some neurons learn to detect edges and lines. Others learn to recognize shapes and textures. Still others learn to understand movement and behavior. When these artificial neurons work together, they can accomplish remarkable things. They can distinguish between a person walking normally and someone who might be injured and needs help. They can tell the difference between children playing and adults fighting. They can recognize when someone drops something accidentally versus when they deliberately leave a package behind. The memory component is equally fascinating. These systems don't just process information in real time. They learn from everything they observe, every face they see, every behavior pattern they detect. Every normal day they monitor. All of this becomes part of their growing understanding of what is typical and what is unusual. This learning process is both powerful and delicate. The AI learns by analyzing thousands or millions of examples. If it sees 10,000 examples of people walking normally, it becomes very good at recognizing normal walking patterns. If it then sees someone limping or stumbling, it can identify this as potentially significant and alert human operators. But here is where the technology becomes truly sophisticated. Modern AI surveillance systems do unjust recognize what they've seen before. They can generalize and adapt. A system trained to recognize suspicious behavior in an airport can adapt its knowledge to work in a shopping mall or a school, adjusting for the different contexts and normal patterns of each environment. Let's walk through a specific example to see how all these components work together. Imagine an AI surveillance system monitoring a busy train station. The cameras are constantly capturing images of thousands of people moving through the space. The AI brain is simultaneously tracking hundreds of individuals, learning their movement patterns and comparing them to its understanding of normal behavior. Most of the time, the system simply observes and learns. People walk at predictable speeds toward their destinations. They queue in orderly lines. They sit and wait for trains in expected ways. The AI notes all of this as normal, filing it away in its memory without alerting anyone. But then something unusual happens. Someone enters the station and begins walking in an erratic pattern, stopping suddenly, changing direction frequently, looking around nervously. The AI notices that this behavior doesn't match its learned patterns of normal movement. It doesn't immediately sound an alarm, but it begins paying closer attention to this individual. The person then leaves a bag near a pillar and walks away quickly. The AI recognizes this as highly unusual in its experience. People don't typically abandon luggage in public spaces. It immediately alerts human security personnel, highlighting the individual and the abandoned bag on their monitors. The human operators can then use their judgment, experience, and context to decide how to respond. Perhaps the person simply forgot their bag and will return for it. Perhaps it's something more serious that requires immediate attention. The AI doesn't make this decision. It simply provides the information that helps humans make better, more informed choices. This partnership between artificial and human intelligence is what makes modern surveillance systems so effective. The AI never gets tired, never loses focus, and can monitor far more information than any human could process. But humans provide wisdom, context, empathy, and ethical judgment that AI cannot replicate. As you reflect on this intricate dance between technology and human oversight, Consider how it represents a new form of collaboration between human and artificial intelligence. We're not being replaced by machines. Instead, we're learning to work alongside them, each contributing our unique strengths to create something more capable than either could achieve alone. Let us explore one of the most fascinating and controversial aspects of AI surveillance: the ability of machines to recognize and remember human faces. This technology, which seems almost magical, has a surprisingly long history and represents one of humanity's most ambitious attempts to teach machines to see the world as we do. Picture yourself looking at an old family photograph. Instantly, effortlessly, you recognize your grandmother's smile, your uncle's distinctive eyebrows, your cousin's mischievous expression. You can do this even if the photo is faded, even if people are wearing different clothes than you remember, even if they've aged since the photo was taken. This remarkable ability, something we take completely for granted, is what scientists have been trying to teach computers for over 60 years. The journey began in the 1960s with a researcher named Woody Bledsoe, who had a simple but ambitious idea. What if computers could recognize faces the same way humans do? His early experiments required human operators to manually mark key points on faces: the centers of the eyes, the tip of the nose, the corners of the mouth. The computer would then measure the distances between these points, creating a unique numerical fingerprint for each face. It was painstaking work, and the results were limited, but it planted the seed for something revolutionary. By the 1990s, researchers had developed something called eigenfaces, a method that could automatically identify the most important features of a face and use them for recognition. The name comes from mathematics, but the concept is beautifully simple. Every face can be described as a combination of basic facial patterns, just as every color can be created by mixing primary colors. The real breakthrough came in the 2000s with the development of deep learning. Instead of trying to program computers with rules about what makes faces recognizable, researchers began training artificial neural networks on millions of face images, allowing the AI to discover its own methods for recognition. The results were remarkable. Modern facial recognition systems can identify individuals with accuracy rates exceeding 99% under ideal conditions. They can recognize faces from different angles, in different lighting conditions, and even when partially obscured by glasses, hats, or masks. Some systems can identify people from their facial structure, even when they're wearing full face coverings. But perhaps most impressively, these systems can search through millions of faces in seconds. Imagine trying to find one specific person in a crowd of 100,000 people at a football stadium. For a human, this would be nearly impossible. For a modern AI system, it's a task that can be completed in milliseconds. This capability has transformed law enforcement and security in profound ways. When someone goes missing, police can now search through thousands of hours of security footage from across a city in minutes rather than months. They can identify suspects from grainy surveillance images that would be useless to human investigators. They can track the movements of dangerous individuals across multiple locations and time periods. The technology has also found gentler applications that improve daily life. Your smartphone uses facial recognition to unlock securely while remaining convenient to use. Airports use it to speed up security checkpoints and immigration processing. Some hospitals use it to ensure that patients receive the correct medications and treatments. But facial recognition also raises important questions that society is still learning to answer. Unlike a password or a keycard, your face is something you can't change or leave at home. It's uniquely yours, and it's visible whenever you're in public. This permanence and visibility create both opportunities and responsibilities. Consider the story of how facial recognition helped solve a decades-old missing person case. A woman who had been abducted as a child was identified through facial recognition when she applied for a driver's license as an adult, finally reuniting her with her family after 20 years. The technology had compared her adult face to childhood photos, recognizing the underlying bone structure that remains consistent throughout life. On the other hand, there are concerns about accuracy and fairness. Early facial recognition systems were less accurate at identifying people with darker skin tones, leading to higher rates of misidentification. This wasn't due to malicious intent, but rather because the training data used to teach these systems wasn't diverse enough. Recognizing this problem, researchers and companies have worked to create more inclusive datasets and fairer algorithms. The technology continues to evolve in fascinating ways. Some systems can now detect emotions from facial expressions, potentially helping identify people who are distressed and need assistance. Others can estimate age, which could help enforce age restrictions more effectively. Some experimental systems can even detect certain health conditions from subtle changes in facial appearance. Privacy advocates have raised important questions about consent and control. When you walk down a public street, should cameras be able to identify you without your permission? How long should this information be stored? Who should have access to it? Different societies are answering these questions in different ways, reflecting their unique values and priorities. Some cities have banned facial recognition in certain contexts, while others have embraced it as a tool for public safety. The European Union has proposed strict regulations on its use, while other regions have taken more permissive approaches. This diversity of responses reflects the complexity of balancing the technology's benefits with legitimate concerns about privacy and autonomy. As you consider this technology, think about how it represents both human ingenuity and human responsibility. We've created something remarkable: machines that can recognize faces better than most humans can. But with this capability comes the need for wisdom in how we choose to use it, ensuring that it serves humanity's best interests while respecting individual rights and dignity. Let us explore one of the most ambitious applications of AI surveillance: the attempt to predict and prevent crime before it occurs. This concept, which might sound like science fiction, is already being tested in cities around the world, with results that are both promising and thought-provoking. Imagine a police department that could know, with reasonable accuracy, where crimes are most likely to occur in the next few hours, not through psychic powers or crystal balls, but through careful analysis of patterns, data, and human behavior. This is the promise of predictive policing, using artificial intelligence to help law enforcement agencies allocate their resources more effectively and potentially prevent crimes before they happen. The concept builds on a simple observation: crime isn't random. It follows patterns of time, location, method, and circumstance. Burglaries tend to happen more frequently in certain neighborhoods at certain times of day. Car thefts spike in particular areas during specific seasons. Domestic violence incidents often escalate following predictable triggers. For decades, experienced police officers have intuitively understood these patterns. A veteran detective might know that break-ins increase in a particular area when school lets out, or that certain intersections see more accidents during rush hour. Predictive policing systems attempt to formalize this intuitive knowledge, using AI to analyze vast amounts of data and identify patterns that might not be obvious to human observers. Let's walk through how such a system might work. The AI analyzes historical crime data going back years or even decades. It looks at when crimes occurred, where they happened, what methods were used, and what the outcomes were. It also incorporates other data sources, weather patterns, economic indicators, social media activity, and even data about local events and gatherings. The system begins to identify subtle correlations. Perhaps burglaries in a particular neighborhood increase by 15% during the week following payday, when people are more likely to have cash at home. Maybe car thefts spike near shopping centers during holiday seasons, or domestic violence calls might increase during certain sporting events or economic stress periods. Santa Cruz, California, was one of the first cities to experiment with this technology. Their system analyzed years of crime data and began predicting the most likely locations and times for burglaries. Police officers were then directed to patrol these areas during the predicted higher-risk periods. The results were encouraging. Burglaries decreased by 4%, and arrests increased by 13% in the first 6 months. But predictive policing isn't just about where crimes might occur. It's also about understanding the complex social and environmental factors that contribute to criminal behavior. Some systems analyze data about education, employment, housing, and social services to identify communities that might benefit from additional support and resources. This approach recognizes that crime prevention is just about law enforcement. It's about addressing the underlying conditions that can lead to criminal behavior. If an AI system identifies that youth crime increases in areas with limited after-school programs, the city might respond by investing in community centers and educational opportunities rather than just increasing police patrols. The technology has shown particular promise in addressing domestic violence, a crime that often follows escalating patterns. AI systems can analyze 911 call histories, police reports, and other data to identify situations where violence might escalate. This allows social services and law enforcement to intervene earlier, potentially preventing serious harm. However, predictive policing also raises important ethical questions. There's a risk that these systems might perpetuate existing biases in the criminal justice system. If historical crime data reflects biased policing practices, such as over-policing certain communities, the AI might learn and amplify these biases, leading to unfair targeting of specific groups. Researchers and police departments are working to address these concerns through careful algorithm design and ongoing monitoring. Some systems focus on predicting locations and times rather than identifying specific individuals, reducing the risk of personal bias. Others incorporate fairness constraints that ensure predictions don't disproportionately target particular communities. The most thoughtful implementations of predictive policing emphasize that AI should support, not replace, human judgment. The technology provides information and insights, but human officers and community leaders make the final decisions about how to respond. This might involve increased patrols, but it could also mean community outreach, social services, or environmental improvements like better lighting or park maintenance. Some cities have found that predictive policing works best when combined with community engagement, instead of simply increasing police presence in predicted high-crime areas. They work with local residents to understand the underlying issues and develop collaborative solutions. This approach recognizes that sustainable crime prevention requires community involvement and trust. As you reflect on predictive policing, consider how it represents both the potential and the responsibility that comes with powerful AI systems. The technology offers genuine opportunities to make communities safer and to use limited police resources more effectively. But it also requires careful oversight, ethical guidelines, and ongoing dialogue between law enforcement, technologists, and the communities they serve. The goal isn't to create a surveillance state where AI watches everyone's every move, but rather to create tools that help human decision-makers protect and serve their communities more effectively while respecting individual rights and dignity. Let us take a peaceful journey into the concept of smart cities, urban environments where AI surveillance is just one part of a much larger, interconnected system designed to make city life more efficient, sustainable, and livable. Imagine a city that can think, learn, and adapt to serve its residents better. Picture waking up in such a city. As you prepare for your morning commute, your phone receives a gentle notification. Traffic is lighter than usual on your route today. You can leave 10 minutes later and still arrive on time. This isn't magic. It's the result of thousands of sensors throughout the city, monitoring traffic flow, analyzing patterns, and sharing information to help residents make better decisions. The traffic management system in a smart city is like a vast nervous system. Cameras at intersections don't just record what happens, they analyze traffic patterns in real time. They can detect when congestion is beginning to form and automatically adjust traffic light timing to ease the flow. They can identify accidents within seconds and immediately reroute traffic while dispatching emergency services. But the intelligence goes deeper than just managing what exists. The system learns from every day's patterns. It discovers that traffic is always heavier on Tuesdays after long weekends, or that certain routes become congested when it rains. This knowledge helps city planners make better decisions about infrastructure improvements and helps residents plan their daily routines more effectively. In Barcelona, the smart city system has transformed how the city manages resources. Sensors in trash bins monitor how full they are, allowing garbage trucks to optimize their routes and only empty bins that actually need it. This reduces fuel consumption, air pollution, and noise while ensuring that bins never overflow. The system learned that tourist areas fill up faster during certain seasons, while residential areas have different patterns on weekends versus weekdays. Water management in smart cities showcases the elegant integration of AI surveillance with environmental stewardship. Sensors throughout the water distribution system monitor pressure, flow, and quality in real time. The AI can detect leaks within minutes rather than days or weeks, preventing water waste and property damage. It can predict when pipes are likely to fail based on age, usage patterns, and environmental conditions, allowing for proactive maintenance rather than emergency repairs. During droughts, the system can help residents conserve water by providing real-time feedback about usage and suggesting optimal times for activities like lawn watering. In flood-prone areas, the same sensors can detect rising water levels and automatically alert residents and emergency services, while adjusting drainage systems to minimize damage. Energy management in smart cities represents perhaps the most sophisticated application of urban AI. The electrical grid becomes an intelligent network that can balance supply and demand in real time. Solar panels on rooftops feed excess energy back into the grid during sunny days, while the system automatically adjusts to use more renewable energy when it's available and less when it's not. Street lighting becomes adaptive, brightening when pedestrians are present and dimming when areas are empty, saving energy while maintaining safety. The system learns the patterns of each neighborhood. When people typically walk their dogs, when students return from evening classes, when shift workers head home, and adjusts accordingly. In Amsterdam, the Smart City Initiative has created what they call a circular economy approach to urban management. The AI system tracks the flow of materials, energy, and waste throughout the city, identifying opportunities to reduce consumption and increase reuse. When construction projects generate excess materials, the system can automatically connect them with other projects that need those same materials, reducing waste and costs. Public safety in smart cities extends far beyond traditional surveillance. Environmental sensors monitor air quality, noise levels, and even pollen counts, providing residents with real-time information to help them make healthier choices. During the COVID-19 pandemic, some cities used this infrastructure to monitor compliance with social distancing guidelines and identify areas where additional health resources might be needed. The system can detect unusual patterns that might indicate emergencies. If sensors notice that an elderly resident hasn't used their utilities in an unusual period, it might alert social services to check on their well-being. If air quality sensors detect smoke or chemical odors, they can immediately alert fire departments and environmental agencies. What makes smart cities truly remarkable is how all these systems work together. When the weather service predicts a storm, the city's AI can automatically prepare, adjusting traffic light timing for expected heavier traffic, pre-positioning emergency services, alerting residents about potential flooding in vulnerable areas, and even adjusting the electrical grid to handle expected power outages. The integration extends to social services as well. If the system detects that certain neighborhoods are experiencing higher stress indicators, perhaps increased noise complaints, more emergency calls, or changes in utility usage patterns, it can alert social workers and community organizations who can provide additional support and resources. Privacy and transparency are crucial considerations in smart city development. Amsterdam has created an algorithm register, a public database that explains exactly which AI systems the city uses, how they work, and what safeguards protect citizens' rights. Residents can see what data is being collected, how it's being used, and who has access to it. The city also involves residents in decision-making about new technologies. Before implementing new AI systems, they hold public consultations to gather input and address concerns. This participatory approach helps ensure that smart city technologies serve the community's actual needs and values rather than just technological possibilities. Some cities have found that the most successful smart city initiatives are those that start small and grow organically, rather than trying to transform everything at once. They begin with specific problems, perhaps traffic congestion in a particular area or energy efficiency in public buildings, and gradually expand successful solutions to other parts of the city. The economic benefits of smart cities can be substantial. Energy savings from intelligent grid management, reduced maintenance costs from predictive systems, and improved efficiency in city services can save millions of dollars annually. These savings can then be reinvested in education, healthcare, and other services that improve residents' quality of life. As you imagine living in such a city, consider how it represents a new form of urban intelligence, not replacing human decision-making, but augmenting it with information and insights that help everyone make better choices. The goal isn't to create a city that controls its residents, but rather a city that serves them more effectively, sustainably, and responsively. As we've journeyed through the world of AI surveillance, from fictional Squid Game scenarios to real-world smart cities, it's important to pause and thoughtfully consider both the remarkable benefits and the legitimate concerns that this technology brings to our lives. Like many powerful tools, AI surveillance is neither inherently good nor bad. Its impact depends entirely on how we choose to design, deploy, and govern it. Let's begin with the genuine benefits that AI surveillance can provide to society. Perhaps most importantly, these systems can save lives in ways that would be impossible with human monitoring alone. Consider a busy hospital where AI cameras monitor patients in intensive care units. The system can detect subtle changes in a patient's breathing or movement patterns that might indicate distress, alerting nurses immediately even when they're attending to other patients. This constant, tireless vigilance has prevented countless medical emergencies. In transportation, AI surveillance has made travel significantly safer. At airports, these systems can identify suspicious behavior patterns that human security personnel might miss in the chaos of busy terminals. They can detect when someone leaves luggage unattended, when individuals are moving in ways that suggest they might be lost or in distress, or when crowds are forming in ways that could lead to dangerous stampedes. The technology has also proven invaluable in finding missing persons. When someone disappears, AI systems can search through thousands of hours of surveillance footage from across a city in minutes, tracing the person's last known movements and potentially identifying where they went. This capability has reunited countless families and has been particularly effective in cases involving missing children or elderly individuals with dementia. For law enforcement, AI surveillance provides tools that can help solve crimes more effectively while potentially reducing the need for more intrusive investigative methods. Instead of conducting broad searches or questioning numerous witnesses, police can use AI to identify specific individuals or vehicles involved in crimes, focusing their investigations more precisely and reducing the impact on innocent community members. The efficiency benefits extend to city management and resource allocation. AI surveillance helps cities understand how their infrastructure is actually being used, enabling better planning and more effective use of public resources. Traffic management systems reduce commute times and air pollution. Smart energy grids reduce waste and costs. Predictive maintenance systems prevent infrastructure failures that could disrupt daily life. However, these benefits come with important concerns that deserve careful consideration. Privacy is perhaps the most fundamental issue. Unlike previous generations, we now live in a world where our movements, behaviors, and even facial expressions can be recorded, analyzed, and stored indefinitely. This creates a permanent record of our daily lives that previous generations could never have imagined. The concern isn't necessarily about what's being done with this information today, but about what could be done with it in the future. Data collected for legitimate purposes today could potentially be misused by future governments or organizations with different values and intentions. Once this information exists, it's difficult to ensure it will never be misused. There are also important questions about accuracy and fairness. AI systems learn from historical data, which means they can perpetuate and amplify existing biases in society. If past policing practices were biased against certain communities, AI systems trained on that data might continue those biases in new and potentially more systematic ways. Facial recognition systems, for example, have historically been less accurate at identifying people with darker skin tones, leading to higher rates of misidentification. While researchers are working to address these issues, they highlight the importance of ensuring that AI systems are fair and accurate for all members of society. The psychological impact of constant surveillance is another important consideration. When people know they're being watched, they may change their behavior in ways that reduce spontaneity, creativity, and freedom of expression. This chilling effect can be subtle but significant, potentially altering the character of public spaces and social interactions. There's also the question of consent and control. In many surveillance applications, individuals have no choice about whether to participate and no control over how their data is used. This raises fundamental questions about autonomy and self-determination in democratic societies. The concentration of surveillance capabilities in the hands of governments and large corporations creates potential for abuse of power. History shows us that surveillance tools created for legitimate purposes can sometimes be misused for political control or commercial exploitation. Ensuring proper oversight and accountability is crucial but challenging. However, it's important to recognize that many of these concerns can be addressed through thoughtful design, strong governance, and ongoing public dialogue. Some cities have implemented privacy by design principles, ensuring that surveillance systems collect only the minimum data necessary and include strong protections for individual privacy. Transparency initiatives like Amsterdam's algorithm register help build public trust by explaining exactly how AI systems work and what safeguards are in place. Regular audits and assessments can help identify and correct biases or errors in AI systems. Strong legal frameworks can provide clear boundaries for how surveillance data can be collected, used, and stored. The key is finding the right balance, harnessing the genuine benefits of AI surveillance while protecting the values and rights that make our societies worth protecting. This requires ongoing dialogue between technologists, policymakers, and citizens to ensure that these powerful tools serve the public good. Some communities have found success with participatory approaches, involving residents in decisions about surveillance technologies. Others have implemented strong oversight mechanisms with independent bodies monitoring how surveillance systems are used and ensuring they comply with ethical guidelines. The goal isn't to reject AI surveillance entirely. The benefits are too significant to ignore. Instead, the challenge is to develop and deploy these technologies in ways that respect human dignity, protect individual rights, and serve the broader interests of society. This requires wisdom, vigilance, and a commitment to democratic values as we navigate this new technological landscape. As you reflect on these considerations, remember that you have a voice in shaping how these technologies develop and are used in your community. The future of AI surveillance is unpredetermined. It will be shaped by the choices we make together as a society. As we continue our gentle exploration, let's take a peaceful journey around the world to see how different societies are approaching AI surveillance. Each culture, with its unique values, history, and priorities, is finding its own path through the opportunities and challenges that these technologies present. Let's begin our journey in China, where the approach to AI surveillance has been perhaps the most comprehensive and systematic. In cities like Shenzhen, often called the world's first fully smart city, an extensive network of cameras and sensors monitors almost every aspect of urban life. The system can track air quality, predict equipment failures, and even identify when elderly residents might need assistance. China's social credit system represents one of the most ambitious attempts to use AI surveillance for social governance. The system monitors citizens' behavior, from financial transactions to social media posts to jaywalking, and assigns scores that can affect access to services like high-speed rail tickets or university admissions. Supporters argue that it promotes trustworthiness and social responsibility, while critics worry about its impact on individual freedom and privacy. What's particularly interesting is how this system reflects Chinese cultural values that emphasize social harmony and collective responsibility. The technology isn't being imposed on an unwilling population. Surveys suggest that many Chinese citizens support the system, viewing it as a way to create a more trustworthy and orderly society. Traveling to Europe, we find a very different approach. The European Union has implemented some of the world's strongest privacy protections, including the General Data Protection Regulation, which gives individuals significant control over their personal data. European cities tend to use AI surveillance more selectively, with strong emphasis on transparency and citizen consent. In Amsterdam, as we've discussed, the city maintains a public register of all AI systems it uses, explaining how they work and what protections are in place. Before implementing new surveillance technologies, the city holds public consultations to gather input from residents. This participatory approach reflects European values that prioritize individual rights and democratic participation. The United Kingdom presents an interesting middle ground. London has one of the world's most extensive CCTV networks, with over 600,000 cameras throughout the city. However, the use of AI enhancement for these systems has been more cautious, with ongoing debates about facial recognition and other advanced capabilities. The UK approach tends to emphasize practical benefits, solving crimes, finding missing persons, managing traffic, while maintaining public oversight and debate about privacy concerns. In the United States, the approach varies significantly between different cities and states, reflecting the country's federal system and diverse political cultures. Some cities, like San Francisco, have banned facial recognition technology in certain contexts, while others have embraced AI surveillance for public safety and urban management. The American approach often emphasizes individual choice and market-based solutions. Many surveillance technologies are developed by private companies and adopted by local governments based on their specific needs and values. This creates a patchwork of different approaches across the country. with some communities embracing comprehensive smart city initiatives, while others maintain more traditional approaches to public safety and urban management. Japan offers another fascinating perspective, combining advanced technology with cultural values that emphasize social harmony and respect for privacy. Japanese cities use AI surveillance extensively for traffic management, disaster preparedness, and public safety, but with careful attention to social acceptance and cultural norms. The Japanese approach often focuses on consensus building and gradual implementation. New technologies are typically introduced slowly, with extensive public discussion and adjustment based on community feedback. This reflects Japanese cultural values that prioritize group harmony and careful consideration of social impacts. In Singapore, the city-state has embraced AI surveillance as part of its broader Smart Nation initiative. The small size and unique governance structure of Singapore allow for comprehensive, coordinated implementation of surveillance technologies. The system is used for everything from traffic management to public health monitoring, with strong emphasis on efficiency and practical benefits. Singaporeans generally express high levels of trust in their government and support for surveillance technologies that improve safety and efficiency. This reflects the country's unique political culture and the practical benefits that residents experience from smart city initiatives. India presents a complex picture, with rapid adoption of AI surveillance technologies alongside ongoing debates about privacy and governance. The country's Aadhaar biometric identification system is one of the world's largest, covering over 1 billion citizens. AI surveillance is being used for everything from traffic management in major cities to monitoring attendance in schools. The Indian approach often emphasizes practical benefits and cost-effectiveness, using AI surveillance to address pressing challenges like traffic congestion, air pollution, and public safety in rapidly growing urban areas. However, there are ongoing debates about privacy rights and the need for stronger regulatory frameworks. African cities are increasingly adopting AI surveillance technologies, often leapfrogging older infrastructure to implement cutting-edge systems. In cities like Lagos and Nairobi, AI surveillance is being used to manage traffic, improve public safety, and support economic development. The African approach often emphasizes practical problem-solving and economic development, using AI surveillance to address infrastructure challenges and support growing urban populations. However, there are also concerns about ensuring that these technologies serve local needs and values, rather than simply copying approaches from other regions. What's remarkable about this global diversity is how it demonstrates that there is no single correct approach to AI surveillance. Each society is finding its own balance based on its unique values, challenges, and priorities. Some emphasize collective benefits and social harmony, while others prioritize individual rights and democratic participation. Some focus on efficiency and practical problem-solving, while others emphasize transparency and public oversight. This diversity is actually a strength, as it allows different societies to experiment with different approaches and learn from each other's experiences. A privacy-focused approach developed in Europe might inspire similar protections elsewhere, while efficiency innovations from Asia might be adapted to other contexts with appropriate safeguards. As you consider these different approaches, think about what values and priorities are most important to you and your community. The global conversation about AI surveillance is ongoing, and your voice and perspective contribute to shaping how these technologies develop and are used in your own society. As we settle deeper into our exploration, let us turn our attention to one of the most important aspects of AI surveillance: how we can protect privacy and individual rights while still benefiting from these powerful technologies. This isn't just a technical challenge. We want to live in and the values we want to preserve. Privacy, at its core, is about having control over your own information and the ability to choose what you share with others. In the age of AI surveillance, this concept becomes more complex, but no less important. Let's explore what privacy means today and how we can protect it. Imagine your daily routine. You wake up, check your phone, commute to work, interact with colleagues, shop for groceries, and return home. In a world without AI surveillance, most of these activities would be private or semi-private experiences. You might be seen by other people, but there would be no permanent record, no systematic analysis, no ability to piece together a complete picture of your life. AI surveillance changes this equation. Your face might be recognized by cameras on your commute. Your shopping patterns might be analyzed by retail systems. Your movements through the city might be tracked and recorded. This does unnecessarily mean you're being watched by human operators. Much of this monitoring is automated and anonymous, but it does mean that information about your daily life is being collected and potentially stored. The key question isn't whether this information collection is inherently good or bad, but rather how we can ensure it is done in ways that respect your autonomy and serve your interests. This is where the concept of privacy by design becomes important. Privacy by design means building protection for personal information into systems from the very beginning, rather than trying to add it later. Let's explore some of the ways this can work in practice. Data minimization is one of the most important principles. This means collecting only the information that's actually necessary for a specific purpose. For example, a traffic management system might need to count the number of cars passing through an intersection, but it doesn't need to identify the specific drivers. The system can be designed to detect and count vehicles without storing any personally identifiable information. Anonymization and pseudonymization are techniques that allow systems to analyze patterns and trends without connecting information to specific individuals. A public health surveillance system might track the spread of illness through a community without knowing the identities of the people involved. The system can still provide valuable insights for health officials while protecting individual privacy. Encryption is another crucial tool. Even if surveillance data is collected, it can be encrypted so that only authorized personnel can access it, and only for legitimate purposes. Advanced encryption techniques can even allow analysis of data without decrypting it, providing insights while keeping the underlying information secure. Time limits on data storage help ensure that surveillance information doesn't accumulate indefinitely. A system might automatically delete footage after 30 days unless it's needed for a specific investigation. This prevents the gradual accumulation of comprehensive life records while still allowing the system to serve its intended purpose. Consent and transparency mechanisms give individuals more control over their information. While it's not always practical to get explicit consent for every surveillance activity, systems can be designed to inform people about what information is being collected and how it's being used. Some systems allow individuals to opt out of certain types of monitoring or to request that their information be deleted. Algorithmic auditing helps ensure that AI systems are working fairly and accurately. Regular testing can identify biases or errors that might lead to unfair treatment of certain groups. These audits can be conducted by independent organizations to ensure objectivity and public trust. Legal frameworks provide the foundation for privacy protection. Laws like the European Union's GDP give individuals specific rights regarding their personal data, including the right to know what information is being collected, the right to correct errors, and the right to have information deleted in certain circumstances. But privacy protection isn't just about technology and law. It's also about social norms and expectations. Communities can establish their own standards for acceptable surveillance practices, balancing security benefits with privacy concerns based on their own values and priorities. Some cities have created citizen oversight committees that monitor surveillance practices and ensure they comply with community standards. Others have implemented privacy impact assessments that evaluate new surveillance technologies before they're deployed, considering their potential effects on individual rights and community values. Education and awareness are also crucial. When people understand how AI surveillance systems work and what protections are in place, they can make more informed decisions about their own privacy and can participate more effectively in public discussions about these technologies. It's worth noting that privacy, protection, and effective surveillance aren't necessarily in conflict. Many of the most successful surveillance systems are those that have built strong privacy protections from the beginning. These systems often enjoy greater public trust and acceptance, making them more effective in the long run. For example, a contact tracing system designed to help control disease spread might be more effective if people trust that their location data won't be misused. Strong privacy protections can actually enhance the system's public health benefits by encouraging more people to participate. Individual action can also help protect privacy in the age of AI surveillance. Being aware of what information you're sharing, understanding your rights under local privacy laws, and participating in public discussions about surveillance policies all contribute to a healthier balance between security and privacy. Technology companies and government agencies have important responsibilities as well. They can choose to implement strong privacy protections even when not required by law. They can be transparent about their practices and responsive to public concern. They can invest in research and development of privacy-enhancing technologies. The goal isn't to eliminate AI surveillance. The benefits are too significant to ignore. Instead, the challenge is to develop and deploy these technologies in ways that respect human dignity and individual autonomy while still providing the security and efficiency benefits that communities need. This requires ongoing dialogue between technologists, policymakers, and citizens. It requires vigilance to ensure that privacy protections keep pace with technological developments. And it requires a commitment to democratic values and human rights as we navigate this new technological landscape. As you think about privacy in your own life, consider what information is most important to you and what level of surveillance you're comfortable with in exchange for various benefits. Your voice and choices contribute to shaping how these technologies develop and are used in your community. As we near the end of our journey together, let's gently explore what the future might hold for AI surveillance technology. Like looking at the stars on a clear night, we can see the direction technology is heading, even if we can't predict exactly where it will take us. The future of AI surveillance will likely be shaped by several emerging technologies that are still in their early stages but show remarkable promise. Let's explore these developments with the same calm curiosity we've maintained throughout our journey. Quantum computing represents one of the most significant potential advances. While today's AI systems are already powerful, quantum computers could process information in ways that are fundamentally different and potentially much more capable. This could enable surveillance systems to analyze patterns and make predictions that are currently impossible. Imagine an AI system that could analyze not just what's happening now, but could consider millions of possible future scenarios simultaneously. Such a system might be able to predict natural disasters, prevent accidents, or identify health emergencies before they become critical. However, this same capability would also raise new questions about privacy and the appropriate limits of predictive technology. Biometric surveillance is expanding beyond facial recognition to include other unique human characteristics. Gait recognition systems can identify individuals by the way they walk, even when their faces aren't visible. Voice recognition can identify people from brief audio clips. Some experimental systems can even identify individuals from their heartbeat patterns or the way they type on a keyboard. These technologies could make surveillance more comprehensive, but they also offer opportunities for more privacy-friendly approaches. A system that recognizes your gait might be able to detect if you re-injured or in distress without needing to identify who you are specifically. Emotional AI is another emerging field that could transform surveillance. These systems attempt to recognize human emotions from facial expressions, voice patterns, or even physiological signals. In healthcare settings, this could help identify patients who are in pain or distress. In public spaces, it might help identify people who need assistance or support. However, emotional AI also raises profound questions about mental privacy. Should systems be able to detect and record our emotional states? How accurate are these systems, and what are the consequences of misreading someone's emotions? These are questions that society will need to address as the technology develops. Edge computing is making surveillance systems more distributed and potentially more privacy-friendly. Instead of sending all data to central servers for analysis, edge computing allows AI processing to happen locally on the cameras and sensors themselves. This means that sensitive information might never leave the local device, reducing privacy risks while still enabling intelligent analysis. Imagine a camera that can detect if someone has fallen and needs help, but that processes this information locally and only sends an alert to emergency services without transmitting any video or identifying information. This approach could provide the benefits of AI surveillance while minimizing privacy concerns. Augmented reality and virtual reality technologies are beginning to intersect with surveillance in interesting ways. AR systems could overlay information about the environment in real time, helping security personnel or emergency responders understand situations more quickly. VR could be used for training surveillance operators or for analyzing complex incidents after they occur. Blockchain technology offers potential solutions for some of the trust and accountability challenges in surveillance. Blockchain could create tamper-proof records of when surveillance data was collected, who accessed it, and how it was used. This could help build public trust by providing transparent, verifiable records of surveillance activities. Artificial general intelligence, AI systems that can match or exceed human intelligence across a wide range of tasks, remains a longer-term possibility. If achieved, AGI could transform surveillance in ways that are difficult to predict. Such systems might be able to understand context, nuance, and ethical considerations in ways that current AI cannot. However, AGI also raises fundamental questions about control and governance. How do we ensure that superintelligent surveillance systems remain aligned with human values and interests? These are questions that researchers and policymakers are beginning to consider. Even though the technology may still be years or decades away, the integration of surveillance with other smart city systems will likely continue to deepen. Future cities might have comprehensive digital nervous systems that can respond to problems and opportunities in real time. A system might detect a water main break, automatically shut off water to prevent damage, dispatch repair crews, and notify affected residents, all within minutes of the initial problem. Personalization and customization of surveillance systems may become more common. Different communities might choose different approaches based on their values and priorities. Some might prioritize privacy and minimal surveillance, while others might choose more comprehensive monitoring in exchange for enhanced security and services. International cooperation and standardization will likely become increasingly important as surveillance technologies become more global. Standards for data sharing, privacy protection, and ethical use could help ensure that surveillance technologies serve human interests regardless of where they redevelop or deployed. The democratization of surveillance technology could also change the landscape significantly. As AI tools become more accessible, smaller communities and organizations might be able to implement sophisticated surveillance systems that were previously only available to large governments and corporations. However, this democratization also raises new challenges about oversight and accountability. How do we ensure that surveillance technologies are used responsibly when they are available to a much wider range of actors? As we look toward this future, it's important to remember that technology alone doesn't determine outcomes. The impact of future surveillance technologies will depend on the choices we make as individuals and as a society. We have the opportunity to shape how these technologies develop and are used. This requires ongoing engagement with the issues, participation in public discussions about surveillance policies, and support for research and development that prioritizes human values and rights. The future of surveillance isn't predetermined. It will be shaped by the decisions we make together. The key is to remain both optimistic about the potential benefits and vigilant about the risks. By staying informed, engaged, and committed to democratic values, we can help ensure that future surveillance technologies serve humanity as best interests while protecting the rights and freedoms that make our societies worth protecting. As we approach the conclusion of our journey, let us explore how we can build size surveillance systems that serve humanity's best interests while respecting our deepest values. This isn't just a technical challenge, it's a moral and social one that requires wisdom, collaboration, and ongoing commitment from all of us. The foundation of ethical AI surveillance lies in recognizing that these systems are not neutral tools. They embody the values, assumptions, and priorities of the people who design, deploy, and govern them. This means that creating ethical surveillance requires intentional effort to embed human values into every aspect of these systems. Let's begin with the principle of human dignity. Every surveillance system should be designed with the recognition that the people being monitored are human beings with inherent worth, rights, and autonomy. This means that surveillance should never be used to dehumanize, manipulate, or control people, but rather to serve and protect them. Practical applications of this principle include ensuring that surveillance systems are designed to help people rather than simply monitor them. A system that detects when someone has fallen should prioritize getting them help rather than recording their vulnerability. A traffic monitoring system should focus on improving safety and efficiency rather than simply catching violations. Transparency is another crucial foundation. People have a right to know when they're being monitored, how the monitoring works, and what happens to the information collected about them. This doesn't mean that every detail of surveillance operations needs to be public, but it does mean that the basic principles and safeguards should be clear and accessible. Some cities have created public dashboards that show how surveillance systems are being used, what data is being collected, and what outcomes are being achieved. Others have established citizen oversight committees that can review surveillance practices and ensure they align with community values. Accountability mechanisms ensure that there are consequences when surveillance systems are misused or when they cause harm. This includes both technical accountability, ensuring that systems work as intended and can be audited and corrected, and human accountability, ensuring that people are responsible for the decisions made using surveillance information. Clear chains of responsibility should exist, from the technicians who maintain the systems to the officials who make policy decisions about their use. When something goes wrong, it should be possible to identify what happened, why it happened, and how to prevent similar problems in the future. Proportionality is the principle that surveillance measures should be appropriate to the problems they're trying to solve. Using comprehensive facial recognition to prevent jaywalking would be disproportionate, while using it to prevent terrorism might be justified. The level of surveillance should match the severity of the threat and the importance of the benefits. This principle also applies to data retention and sharing. Information collected for one purpose should unautomatically be available for other purposes, without careful consideration of whether such use is appropriate and necessary. Fairness and non-discrimination require that surveillance systems treat all people equitably, regardless of their race, gender, religion, or other characteristics. This is both a technical challenge, ensuring that AI algorithms don't exhibit bias, and a social challenge, ensuring that surveillance practices don't perpetuate or amplify existing inequalities. Regular testing and auditing can help identify biases in surveillance systems. Diverse teams of developers and reviewers can help catch problems that might be missed by homogeneous groups. Community input can help identify concerns and priorities that might not be obvious to technical experts. Privacy by design means building protection for personal information into surveillance systems from the very beginning. This includes technical measures like encryption and anonymization, as well as policy measures like data minimization and time limits on retention. The goal isn't to eliminate all collection of personal information, but to ensure that such collection is purposeful, limited, and protected. People should have as much control as possible over their own information, including the ability to know what's being collected and to correct errors. Democratic governance ensures that decisions about surveillance are made through inclusive participatory processes that reflect community values and priorities. This might include public hearings before new surveillance systems are deployed, regular reviews of existing systems, and mechanisms for community input and feedback. Different communities will make different choices about surveillance based on their unique circumstances and values. What's important is that these choices are made deliberately and democratically, rather than simply accepting whatever technologies are available. International cooperation can help ensure that ethical principles are maintained even as surveillance technologies cross borders. Standards for data protection, human rights safeguards, and technical interoperability can help prevent a race to the bottom, where surveillance systems are deployed without adequate protections. Organizations like the United Nations, the European Union, and various professional associations are working to develop frameworks for ethical AI that can guide surveillance development and deployment worldwide. Education and public engagement are essential for building and maintaining ethical surveillance systems. People need to understand how these technologies work, what their benefits and risks are, and how they can participate in decisions about their use. This includes education for technologists about the social and ethical implications of their work, education for policymakers about the capabilities and limitations of surveillance technologies, and education for the general public about their rights and options. Continuous improvement and adaptation are necessary because both technology and social values evolve over time. What seems ethical and appropriate today might not be acceptable in the future, and new technologies will create new opportunities and challenges. Regular reviews of surveillance systems, ongoing research into their social impacts, and mechanisms for updating policies and practices are all important for maintaining ethical standards over time. The role of civil society organizations, including privacy advocates, human rights groups, and community organizations, is crucial for maintaining accountability and ensuring that surveillance systems serve the public interest. These groups can provide independent oversight, advocate for stronger protection, and help ensure that diverse voices are heard in policy discussions. Finally, it's important to recognize that building ethical AI surveillance is an ongoing process, not a destination. There will always be new challenges, new technologies, and new questions to address. What matters is maintaining a commitment to human values and democratic principles as we navigate these challenges together. The goal isn't to create perfect surveillance systems, but to create systems that are continuously improving, responsive to community needs and values, and committed to serving human flourishing while protecting human rights. This requires all of us, technologists, policymakers, and citizens, to remain engaged, informed, and committed to the values that make our societies worth protecting. The future of AI surveillance will be shaped by the choices we make together, and we all have a role to play in ensuring that future serves humanity's best interests. As we come to the end of our peaceful journey through the world of AI surveillance, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've discovered together. We began with the fictional surveillance system of Squid Game and found that it was unso-fictional after all. The technologies that seemed like science fiction are already working quietly in cities around the world. We've seen how AI surveillance can save lives, solve crimes, manage traffic, and help cities operate more efficiently and sustainably. we've also explored the important questions these technologies raise about privacy, fairness, and the kind of society we want to live in. Perhaps most importantly, we've learned that the future of AI surveillance isn't predetermined. These technologies are tools, remarkably sophisticated tools, but tools nonetheless. Their impact on our lives will depend on the choices we make about how to design, deploy, and govern them. The key insight from our journey is that we don't have to choose between security and privacy, between efficiency and human rights, between technological progress and human values. With thoughtful design, strong governance, and ongoing public engagement, we can have surveillance systems that serve our needs while protecting what we value most. This requires all of us to stay informed, engaged, and committed to democratic values. It requires technologists to consider the social implications of their work. It requires policymakers to listen to their communities and to prioritize human welfare. And it requires all of us, as citizens, to participate in the conversations that will shape how these technologies develop. The surveillance systems of the future will be what we make them. They can be tools of oppression or tools of service. They can enhance human flourishing or diminish it. The choice is ours, and it's a choice we make not once, but continuously, through our individual actions and our collective decisions. As you drift off to sleep tonight, perhaps you'll dream of cities that are both smart and wise, of technologies that serve humanity's best interests, and of a future where artificial intelligence enhances rather than replaces human judgment, compassion, and wisdom. The story of AI surveillance is still being written, and you are one of its authors. Sleep well, knowing that tomorrow brings new opportunities to shape that story in ways that honor both human ingenuity and human dignity. Sweet dreams, and thank you for joining me on this thoughtful exploration of one of the most important technological developments of our time. Until we meet again in another sleepy tech story, rest peacefully in the knowledge that the future remains ours to create.